join us. They just kind of.
Enemy in the container.
Oh well. Thank you for pretty much confirming what I just said.
And now I resided somewhere in Minnesota. It's cold. It's like negative 18 degrees outside right now.
80s pop funk.
My first job was on Madden 20.
My name is Adam Salim. I'm an esports mentor. The majority of my work is just guiding people in terms of the business of esports, the fundamentals of sports science applied to the world of competitive gaming. A lot of this you're not going to learn in the traditional school system or any public school. It's just going to be based off of my lived experience and my wealth of knowledge pertaining to being a teacher, to being a coach, to being an advisor, to being a consultant, and then a mentor. And so this has been comprised of almost a decade of experience. I started when I was 16. I created my first esports organization / content creation company at that time called Chaotic Convergence Gaming. And by the age of 17, I had different staff and artists working with me, and it was cool and it was fun, but I didn't know how to grow and scale that company. So that startup company failed. And so this is why I mentor people, because it's based off of my failed experiences as well as the success that I've had.
Right. And so kind of talk about like your start, like, obviously you started pretty young and, obviously esports and gaming and stuff like that has kind of been a part of your life for a long time. Kind of explain like your start, like what did you play? Like what even got you kind of started and going down that path?
The games I played were specific to the Nintendo 64. That's what I had when I was younger. And so I played Super Smash Bros. I played Legend of Zelda. And I enjoyed these games a lot because they weren't just competitive, right? They taught me how to think critically about the actions I'm taking, but they taught me to think very contrarian, right? I had to think 10 steps ahead of other people in order to beat them sometimes, because as you see the Super Smash Bros. Community, the fighting game community, they're very competitive. And a lot of times, if you're not really good at the game or a certain character, you're not going to be able to predict what moves they're going to make. And so for me, I was practicing by myself most times, and I was playing versus the bot, and I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to be able to win every single match most likely, but at least I can do, let's say this game I practice my dodges better, or this next round I'm going to practice trying to figure out how to do better grabs once I'm off the platform to try and reposition my character better. And so there's certain things which I had to practice when I was young, which I applied to the real world, right? When I'm in school, starting from about the age of, let's say, 8 or 9, I started to think contrarian. And I was thinking, why am I learning all these things which don't teach me how to think critically? They're just trying to get me to memorize things that aren't very useful. Right. And then I started to think the platform grabs, right? How to reposition my character. How do I reposition my personality, the things I'm learning, the feedback I'm getting from the world in a way that's actually useful? It's applicable to the fundamentals of living a good lifestyle, right? Health, wealth, love, happiness. How do I attain these things for myself?
How did that kind of bridge the gap as far as you wanting to coach and wanting to mentor folks? And like you said that, you have a teaching background and, that's what you like to do, passionate about. What got you started, in the teaching aspect?
Back when I was younger, I had an opportunity to work with a company called Top Score Solutions. And that company, I was speaking with the founder, and he's one of my great mentors and friends. And he said, you can choose any role that you want. And I was like, I don't even know what role to decide on. And so he just said, just choose something and we'll stick with it. And so I was like, okay, I'll do something with marketing. And then he's like, executive director of marketing. And I was like, okay, I've never been an executive before. I've never been a director of marketing before. Let's see where this goes. And so with this small business, I learned the fundamentals of sports science and applied it to esports. And then I started mentoring. And then I realized through mentorship in that company, instead of just doing like the typical consulting where you just charge people an insane rate and then most people can't afford it. I was like, why don't I just teach people for free? And then only the select few founders, the CEOs, business owners who are ready for the actual consultation package or whatever it may be at the time that I'm charging a price for, they'll pay for that. But everyone else, just give them my time freely, because being able to transfer the knowledge that I learned in business and from my background as a coach, consultant, advisor, and a teacher, right, I was able to learn. I want to put in more effort and give this effort in terms of my time to other people. And in return, right, people will be able to say, wow, this guy, he's successful, but he's willing to give me his time, even though I don't have to do that, even though I don't have to work a job. I'm able to work a job because it's great. I love working with the group home that I'm currently working at, being a youth mentor. I work during the night from 10 to 6 a.m. And a lot of people ask me, like, well, if you earn so much money, why do you work this job? And I'm like, you guys are thinking in a very strange way, because to me, right, it's not about the money. It's about looking at the clients, right, the youth, and it's saying,
Right.
hey, there isn't anybody else here to do this job for them. It's just me and whoever else is on the staff at night. So you have to think not so much in terms of the fear of losing money. That doesn't really matter at a certain point in your life. The money doesn't really impact you that much in terms of happiness. It's about fulfillment and the actual meaningful value you provide to society. That's where you get things in terms of harmony and people call it balance.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of people who are my students, clients, or customers just ask me, outside of the business aspect, which anybody can learn, the business skills, it's not too difficult. Just open up a business autobiography of Warren Buffett or the Rockefellers or someone like that. You can learn all the business skills like that.
Mm-hmm.
The difficult things people don't know how to learn by themselves is finding that fulfillment I was talking about earlier, that harmony. Many people ask me, how do I get a job in esports? And I'll quote some people. They'll say, Adam, what is the steps to get this job at this company?
Mm-hmm.
And for them, they don't know how to create that plan. They don't know what actual movements to do with their personality, their character, to actually position themselves to work with a certain company.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's just me laying out the groundwork, because for me, I think about things in terms of systems thinking. I think about the form and function of people's psychology and how this works in terms of their desires. A lot of people want a job at esports, and I'm just telling people, hey, don't start at the job you want. You want to work your way backwards. Think about the lifestyle you want in esports. Think about the friends and family members you want to have experiences with in esports. Think about the way you want to interact with your boss in esports, or your manager, or anybody who has authority over you. Think about the people you would have authority over. Think about the customers or clients or students you would work with.
Mm-hmm.
Work your way backwards, and then you can start to figure out what steps you take to work with a certain company, a certain individual, and then you can figure out the plan based off of this reverse psychology / reverse success engineering.
Mm-hmm. How do you see it like growing? How do you see it changing as these different elements start to add to it?
Many people, they often tell me, esports isn't profitable. I'll quote them again. They'll say, Adam, esports hasn't been a good business model for me. And I'm just here to tell you, esports has been a great business model for me. Why? Because I'm not dependent on it being profitable this year or next year or the year after that. I'm outcome independent, which means for me, right, I can put in money into a startup company today,
Mm-hmm.
and then 10 years later, right, it doesn't have to be profitable. I can be like Amazon. I could be unprofitable for almost 20 years and then become super rich later. Like to a lot of people, they want instant gratification. They want to see the success right now.
Mm-hmm.
And from my background, right, I wasn't successful instantly. I was voted out of my house when I was very young. I was at the age of 18, and my family said, Adam, we don't want you living here anymore. You're out. And so I just packed up my stuff, went to go live with my friend. I was live streaming League of Legends, and I was about to graduate from high school. And I was thinking, man, esports has been a great opportunity for me, because I learned how to be not just disciplined. Anybody can learn discipline, but I learned how to figure out what purpose I want in life. What's my mission? What's my vision? And then I can develop my harmony, my inner peace that way. And so a lot of people, they get distracted by the money and the success and the vanity of that. And I'm here to tell you, you can get that stuff. That's not what you need to focus on in the beginning. In the beginning, you need to figure out what's your purpose. How do you develop a system? How do you develop the process? So whenever you have a bad day, you can resort to your lowest level of functioning, which is your standards, right? Your expectations for yourself. So when I have a bad day, right, I still outperform all these other coaches and other people because on my bad day, right, it's their best day. And so a lot of people, they don't develop those types of systems, those processes where they have bad days and they become progressively better over time.
How do you kind of approach when people are, I guess, ready for that step? How do you kind of go about talking to them about attracting, investors or sponsorships or that type of thing? Like, what are those conversations like? And like, kind of give me a few steps as far as like what they need to take in order to get there?
Most oftentimes people will ask me, and I'll quote them again, Adam, how do I get investors? Adam, how do I get sponsors? Again, this is the wrong frame of thinking because you will attract what you think about. What you think about inside of here will actually manifest physically in the real world. So if people are thinking about how to get investors, well, why would an investor want to be caught by you? And people don't think like that. They think in terms of just getting a major sponsor, like Red Bull, to sponsor them. And I'll tell you my personal story. I reached out to Red Bull years ago and they rejected me. And a lot of people don't know that because at the time, I didn't tell anybody. I just said, why did they reject me? Why doesn't Red Bull want to work with me? And now, even though I'm creating these AAA gaming events around the world and working with these awesome people and all of these great things are happening and I can get, many different sponsors, I had to learn, why did Red Bull reject me? What was it about my character, my competency, my competitiveness, which Red Bull did not like? They did not want to work with me for some particular reason, right? There was a certain set of skills or an attitude or a system or a process which I had to develop in order to work with a company like Red Bull. So the way I think about this in terms of attracting investors or sponsors or being ready for the success or vanity is just to remove your ego, right? Submerge your ego. A lot of people say be humble. I'm not telling you to be humble. I'm telling you to be strategic about how you use your ego.
Well, what's it like to go be at these sort of events, and what type of people are you attracting? What type of, students, teachers, mentors, and likewise that are coming to these events?
But oftentimes my gaming events, whether it be with the company called the Global Esports Association,
Mhm.
which I was mentoring years ago, we were setting up AAA gaming events in the Bahamas at the time. So I was planning that. And so there'd be a lot of different cyber athletes, a lot of people who are sports psychologists, who to go and do the performance training for the cyber athletes. And then there might be somebody who's a sponsor there, somebody who, if they're content creators, they might be there. Some people who enjoy like anime and cosplaying will be there. A lot of people in terms of investors might show up just to experience what esports is like at a resort. A lot of people don't experience esports in person at a luxury place like that. They just experience esports on Twitch or YouTube. And
Right.
so oftentimes it'll be less about me trying to create a super profitable event. It'll be more about how do I create the highest quality and meaningful experience where people will remember the feelings and emotions they had.
Like, what does the future kind of hold for you? Like, where do you see it progressing? Where do you see, uh, you know, the events that you are, putting on, or the uh, companies that you're working with, things like that? Like, what does the future look like as far as, where you want to take it, where you want to go, your goals and such?
So I always tell people my future consists of, again, reverse psychology, reverse engineering success. I plan at the end of my life. So when I'm on my deathbed, how do I want people to remember me? What's my legacy going to be? There are certain people who I don't want them to remember my name. I want them to forget about me. And a lot of people don't think like that. They're thinking, oh, I want everybody to show up at my wedding or everybody to show up at my funeral. And I'm just like, I don't want everybody at my wedding or my funeral. I want the right people at the right time, at the right place, family, friends, a lot of close associates, people who I cherished and people who cherished me in my lifetime. Those are the people who I want to remember me. And so I want to think about a specific way where my legacy can be remembered for my bloodline, right? I think about things in terms of eons or even more than that, right? 1,000 years. What's my legacy gonna be? Am I gonna have a book people can read, or I'm gonna have some type of uh, history on the blockchain, right? Some technology people can have and it lasts forever. They can just look it up on the blockchain, or am I gonna have some type of uh, let's say a system of cool art, right? That I
Mhm.
can save or people can, remember me through art. Like there's a whole bunch of ways which I think about my legacy, how my life is after I die, so people can remember me, what emotions and feelings they have about me. That's how I think about my future. I want to think about the end point and then
Mhm.
work my way backwards. What actions do I need to take to create that experience for other people?